Hello and welcome to the Grand Cinema Hotel, a podcast hosted by two friends who love cinema. I'm Alvaro and I'm joined by Gus. Tonight you'll be staying in room 143, An American Werewolf in London, the classic horror comedy directed by John Landis. So go ahead, get comfortable and throw on that do not disturb sign as we howl at the moon with An American Werewolf in London.
My friend Jack was just here. Ah!
Your dead friend, Jack.
Hi, David. He told me that I will become a monster in 2 days.
What's going on, all my lycanthropes? Thanks for checking back into the Grand Cinema Hotel for the 1 year anniversary, and it is the beginning of spooky season as well. I'm here with Ro today. Nate wasn't able to make it. This was his suggestion. So for the beginning of spooky season, we're checking back in for An American Werewolf in London. Alvaro, first time reaction to this movie. How long ago did you see this?
I think this is one of those movies that I had seen as a kid on flipping the channels to like TCM.
Mm-hmm.
Like they had this movie, kind of TV version, cut up version.
The 4-hour version. Take up half your day.
And I didn't watch it from the beginning or anything, but that was like my first experience to it, and he was already the wolf at that point, like so.
Oh, you've only caught it like at the end.
Mm-hmm. So I was very interested since then, but then in all honesty, didn't really have too much of an access to it up until like streaming sites. Yeah, and then so this movie is more recent for me, and I think I just really enjoyed it the first time I watched it. I thought it was really well done. I thought the wolf transformation stuff was really some of the best that I've still seen, and I honestly thoroughly have fun watching this movie every time I watch it.
Is it the best werewolf movie? I almost said vampire.
Yeah.
Is it the best werewolf movie?
I think so, just because maybe I'm speaking a little out of term here. I've only seen a couple of them, but I do think that it holds its weight for a reason. I think it's kind of community agreed that it's for sure one of the top three.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen like pieces of the original one, like the 1930s Universal one or whatever. I like it, like I respect it. I always thought the Wolfman was kind of underrated as opposed to like Frankenstein or Dracula or something like that.
Yeah.
I do think being a werewolf is kind of the coolest, but has the most cons.
Yeah, that's what we were talking about before.
But I do think that this is one of the best, if not the best. I mean, I don't really have too much exposure to them. I've seen Wolf of Snow Hollow. I've seen like the Benicio del Toro Wolfman. I've seen pieces of the original one.
Right.
But I don't know. I mean, Twilight, right?
Yeah. No, but those really are the comparisons that I have. And this movie is 1981.
Yeah.
For us to be talking about 40 years.
Yeah, exactly.
And this still is like in 40 years, I haven't gotten something that I'm like, that's better.
There's a Dracula movie all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Or there's always something vampire related.
And I'm sure not to like talk down on people maybe who have made B films or short films with the Wolfmans, but I just think this was kind of given a lot of money for its time, and it shows. And I don't think they've really gone to that effort. Maybe Universal, when they were launching that Dark Universe, maybe that there was plans in there, but ever since then it seems like they were like, no one's interested in this anymore.
I can't even remember who was supposed to play the Wolfman. I know Johnny Depp was going to be the Invisible Man. And
exactly.
I know that Russell Crowe was Dr. Jekyll. Tom Cruise was the mummy.
Maybe it was Armie Hammer.
Oh no!
Yeah, like that's why it's just not talked about, right? No, but we've talked about it before. I think in previous episodes that I am a monster fan. A monster fan, of horror. Like when there's monsters, and I don't know, maybe it's a little too corny for people now, but I do think it could be well done. And
monsters over trauma.
No, I don't think so. But
you had to think about it for a second.
Yeah, but I do enjoy a good monster because like they're really well done. The really good ones are really well done, I think, and it is probably the weirdest thing you can come across. And I mean, we've kind of talked about it. Actually, never mind. I'm gonna save that thought for later.
Okay. Yeah, werewolves. I just feel like the representation is not there really for me. I think this is one of the only interesting werewolf designs too.
Mm-hmm.
Like this is the best looking werewolf as well. I don't know if you've seen recently with that. I think it was the new Lord of the Rings. They had like a werewolf and people were kind of losing their shit. And then other people were like, this is fucking sick. Like this is the best one since An American Werewolf in London. The only other werewolf I can really think of actually enjoying like the look of them was, and it's funny because it's directed by the same guy, so fucking the Thriller music video.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So like I always thought Michael Jackson looked like such a sick werewolf with like the varsity jacket. He looked kind of cat-like.
The cat-like, yeah.
You know? Yeah, I mean, I don't want to start talking about Rick Baker yet, so let's do John Landis first, and then we can kind of just spend a good amount of the time gushing about Rick Baker's work.
John Landis, the only reason we gave some thought to doing this episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Very interesting character. Definitely don't have as a deep dive as we do for other directors. I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm passionate about his work. I like
Coming to America. I like Ferris Bueller, and I like this, but I don't really care for like the Animal Houses or like any of his other work really. I feel like Blues Brothers, things like that. Like that's a little too boomer comedy for me.
I like it, but they're not my favorite. You know, they're good. I respect them. So he's just not something.
The Kentucky Fried Movie.
We're usually as passionate about. But this movie is one of my favorite movies. So, but John Landis is. We were listening to some interviews before, and very interesting character. And there's a lot of Gus has a lot more notes on that
he's
stuff.
He's like cancelable by association. You know what I mean?
Yeah. As he kind of brought up Thriller, so he's worked with Michael Jackson.
It's all like I don't know. His reputation is really weird, right? Because he's involved with people and involved with things that are very like suspect. You know, like he's worked with Michael Jackson, right? And before this would obviously not be even. We wouldn't be talking about it like this.
No,
you know? Like, it would just be like a tip, like a feather in his hat. Like, oh, I worked with Michael Jackson.
Yeah.
But now that would be seen as controversial. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then you have like the stuff with his son, Max Landis, ultimate scumbag. Just it's like, oh man, this is who raised you? Come on, dude.
Yeah.
And then the Twilight Zone. I mean, I saved the biggest one for last. 3 people died, crushed by a helicopter. Somebody was decapitated. I mean, and he claimed no culpability in this. I mean, come on, bro. You're the director of all of this. You know what I mean? Like, you have to have some responsibility for this. So
he said he overworked the kids. That was it,
yeah,
right?
Overworking the kids, breaking the California laws, dude. Settling it out of court. So John Landis is quite the character. Goes on to have, a lovely film career after.
All of this gets him canceled for a good 6 months.
2 years, right? We saw he was out of the spotlight for 2 years, but he made 3 movies.
So he was making those movies.
So. Yeah, I just find him. He's not someone we would normally even be talking about. Like, it's not like we have excluded directors before, just because of who they are. But John Landis, I don't know if I'd want him staying in my hotel, dude. Not for the 1-year anniversary.
Yeah,
the movie could stay, but I don't know about
John Landis. Yeah, I'd be like, I'll take the makeup artist.
Yeah, I mean, enough of John Landis. Let's talk about Rick Baker here, the star of the show. He did the special effects. I mean, you know him, you love him. The 1970s King Kong, the Star Wars films, An American Werewolf in London. I think he designed 2 of the most iconic like horror characters in this. Yeah, being the 2 main characters. So the werewolf and the zombie. Do you remember their names? I know one of them was David, and one of them was. I don't have it in front of me right now, but I know David is the werewolf. Jack, yeah. Jack is the zombie. Do you think the zombie design is as good as the werewolf design? Because I do. It's
pretty on par.
And it's it changes throughout, right?
Because he's like dying more, right? His flesh
he's decaying more.
Yeah. So, yeah, I did notice that the first time too is that the zombie work here, especially when he first appears to him and he's kind of like shredded how he was killed.
Yeah, it's like all his wounds.
You can
see his flesh.
It's like it looks so real, you know, and it hasn't it's aged. I know we did like in The Thing we talked about how it's pretty like it's fine, it's still pretty good, but this like hasn't aged at all. I think it still looks really good.
Yeah, the special effects are really on point with this movie. Like, I would like to see this in like 4K or the highest quality possible. Yeah. or I would love to see it like somewhere like the Academy Museum, you know, where I could actually go and get a look at it. And like right now I pulled up a picture of it and I'm just looking at the first image of him where like, yeah, he's shredded and things like that. And then I'm seeing another image next to it of him as like the fully
almost like skeleton,
cartoonish like zombie that you would imagine on like a Creep Show comic book or something like that,
yeah.
you know, just like the popping eyes, no lips. And it's just really good stuff, dude. It's like what you would see on like an Iron Maiden album cover, you know what I mean? Like it's so like, I don't even know how to describe. Like it's so horror, you know what I mean? Like it's the dumbest way of putting it, but this movie has those like that iconic horror look of like the imagery, you know what I mean?
Yeah, it really
so
does.
Well done.
And then, sorry, but I think that's what makes this movie one of the reason why we wanted to put it as the first movie, I guess, for the Halloween season, because it invokes everything that is spooky or is Halloween, everything that is horror, everything that was at one point one of the forefront of horror, which is monster films.
Yeah.
That, I mean, there's a lot of paying respect to those Universal, and I think that they really definitely use their angle in terms of trying to associate it more with like the comedic aspect.
Yes, I mean, so it is a Universal movie. That's the other thing. And then there's a lot of weird Universal name dropping in the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like my boy David is a cinephile.
Yeah.
His favorite movie is The Wolfman. He's like, it's Lon Chaney. He gets bit by Bela Lugosi. His father has to kill him. Yeah. I mean, David Naughton is giving a borderline performance. If I can't tell if he's like, he's trying to do Lon Chaney or if he's trying to do Tommy Wiseau. You know what I mean? Like it's a mixture. It's this perfect like blend. It's an incredible performance because it teeters the line so much between good and bad. You know what I mean? Like he kind of reminds me of like an off-brand Keanu. You know what I mean? Where it's like I could see the things that people don't like about Keanu Reeves with this actor, and he looks like Al Pacino.
That's a good comparison.
You
yeah,
know
he does.
I mean? So he has the look. He has half of the acting performance.
And the priest of The Exorcist, because he looks like Al Pacino too, right?
Yeah, he does kind of look like the priest from The Exorcist as well.
We got triplets over here.
Yeah, right. Like all actors kind of look the same. It's the A, the B, and the C, right?
Yeah.
So like you couldn't get Al Pacino to do this. This budget was only $5 million. We're not getting Al Pacino. Let's get C grade Al Pacino.
Yeah. He's funny.
Man.
He's funnier anyways. It'll work out, you know.
Yeah.
But
I kind of wanted to talk about the introduction of the movie so we can talk about the two characters.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you meet these guys in the back of a sheep truck in what looks like a set piece from The Green Knight or Lord of the Rings.
Exactly.
Right? They're in like the northern English countryside.
It's like a 2-minute opening shot of the lush green like landscape that they're in,
Looks
and
like Zelda.
And then the car is just driving. You see a car driving in from far away, and it takes a while to start in terms of all the credits start. You know.
Yeah, they don't really do that anymore.
Nope.
Not like that.
I like that though, you know.
I do like when it's the credits because it makes you feel like you're just like settling into the
I feel like
movie.
Suspiria did that. It was the last movie that I felt like
it
like bled in like that. And you're like, oh, I gotta pay attention since the credits start rolling, but it's not. You know, they don't start talking.
It'd be cool to make a movie where like every 5 minutes is just like one thing from the credits. And it goes like for like 45 minutes.
Exactly. You get a cool shot of her looking up at the sky and then just the credit
looking
rolling.
up at somebody's name.
yeah, exactly.
But we have our two characters, so they're played by David Naughton and what's the other guy's name?
Griffin Dunne.
Griffin Dunne.
Dunne, yeah.
Big fan of Griffin Dunne from After Hours. That's the movie I'm very familiar of with him. Hot streak in the 80s. I mean, I feel like he was more of a popular actor then than he is now, or maybe I just don't know what I'm talking about. But I do think that he is giving the best performance in this movie. For sure.
Yeah.
I mean, David Naughton is cool and all, but I feel like if the roles were reversed, that this would be like a 5-star movie. You know, like if Griffin Dunne had played the werewolf. But it is what it is. I mean, his character has most of the humor, but the humor is also very dark. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't feel like they would make this nowadays. You know, like half of the movie is him telling his best friend to kill himself.
Yeah, we were listening to John Landis talk about that. There's some people where it's too funny to be scary or it's too scary to be funny.
Yeah, I mean, where do you fall? I mean, I know it's like a cheesy 80s movie.
I think it's too scary to be funny in terms of having to, because I think I do see more of what you're talking about, the dark tones in it are more of what it's trying to present to you, as opposed to it being funny. I think it's just funny because that's quote unquote how Americans are. Or like in an American in British society, it's gonna be funny.
Well, I mean,
circumstances.
Like the relationship between the two main characters, it's no different than like what me and you were doing. You know, if we were walking around, hanging out, cracking jokes or whatever. But I mean, for them, they have like it's not like it's really a comedy movie, but there's like comedic aspects to what they're doing.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's that weird boomer comedy that I don't really find funny. It's like very subtle and like not subtle but slapstick or just kind of like corny jokes. I don't know. I don't think of it as a very funny movie. I just think of it's so dark that it happens to be funny. Like, I mean, when we see a decapitated head just fly onto a car hood, you know what I mean?
No, yeah, I agree. Because the comedic aspects of it didn't all work for me, but I do think there's.
Me either. I don't think this movie's that funny.
Yeah, but then that's what I mean. But I can understand how somebody else might think it's like really funny. But it's more to do with that. So I do think it's too scary to be a
If you
comedy.
had seen it as a kid, I also did not see this until I was older, like in my mid-20s. You know what I mean? So I have no reference for how this would have freaked me out if I was a kid. But if you had seen it at a really young age, do you think it would have like scared you?
I think it would have.
Do you even think you would have thought like, oh, this is a funny movie too?
No, because like when I did see it, like a TCM channel, just kind of like I don't even remember how, but like seeing the wolf was kind of like, whoa, what is like, you know what I mean? I was more scared that like that was a realistic looking wolf or like Wolfman or whatever it was, and because even then I remember like it's not like I watched any of the movie or anything, but the imagery stood out to me, and I do think it is more scary than it is comedic. You have those zombie sequences, you have a lot of the walking corpses that we see later, and it's well done. I don't think it looks cheesy, and not in very many sequences at least.
Yeah, I don't think it looks cheesy like effects wise. I think the jokes are cheesy.
Yeah,
like the humor.
Exactly.
Like, it just doesn't work for me really at all. I think the funniest character is probably the doctor. He says some funny ass stuff.
He's like, "What are you still doing here?"
Yeah, like he feels like he's an airplane. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I had mentioned to you before.
Yeah, that's so funny.
I don't know. You said you didn't realize that there was so many airplane.
No, I didn't
posters
notice
in the movie,
that.
right?
No.
It's like when he's running down the tunnels, like that. One of the best sequences in the entire movie. You see a bunch of airplane posters. You see another poster that alludes to the theater that they go to later on in the movie. The movie "See You Next Tuesday," an acronym for you know what word. The poster says like "nonstop orgy," and then right next to it is an airplane poster.
I just didn't miss that.
When the guy keeps running down the hall, you just see a bunch of them, and I mean, an airplane must have been coming out recently. Oh no, you know that makes me think. I think Airplane's actually older.
Let me look it up, but it might have been 80, so a year before it.
Okay.
So I guess maybe when they were recording it,
yeah,
right?
like maybe it's some cool marketing. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, oh, check out this movie when it comes out. Oh, okay. I can fuck with that.
Yeah, I mean, I really like. I would say I like these movies equally too. Airplane and An American Werewolf in London.
Yeah.
So that's why it's cool, and it's like that. Those are little things that I found through watching movies. As like these. Airplane works for me. Airplane is really funny.
It's one of the funniest. And the doctor kind of gives me that same energy of Leslie Nielsen.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he's probably the most interested in solving what's going on out of all the characters in this movie, but he just cracked me up throughout the entire time. And so did the guy who's in the bar who like plays chess. Like the bald dude who's apparently the leader of that village.
And then he has the joke with the American throwing out the Mexican, right?
Yeah.
I
thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that's exactly like that's what I mean. Some of them do work really funny. Because, I don't know, some jokes are still just jokes, you know? And when you put yourself in that world, y'all like and be in this rural place, and because that's like off the skirts of London.
No, yeah, like they're in a village.
Yeah,
like it looks like a Pokemon village. Like you run up on it, and it's like a Pokemon center, a store, the gym, and then that's it. The next village.
It looks like Shrek is right around the corner. But what I was gonna say is for him to have that joke there, it's just that's why it works. Because it's like, well, I'm in this world. That would be really funny in this situation.
And he's never even seen a Mexican.
Yeah, he just knows Americans. He's like, oh, Americans don't like Mexicans.
He remembers the Alamo.
Yep, like, I remember the Alamo.
I watch that movie now.
No.
He's like, everybody dies at the end. It's horrible.
Yeah.
I thought it was awful, bruv.
Remember the egg. I thought it was awful, bruv. Have some sympathy.
Yeah. Yeah, man. Have some sympathy for these boys. They're somebody's grandson, bro. Oh, man.
But yeah, there's that tunnel sequence is one of my favorite sequences in the movie. I think it's very well shot. It's kind of as a lot of
that pure horror.
That chase factor. Yeah, exactly.
Cinema.
Because you don't see it for a long time of what you know as the audience, because we've already seen the wolf at this point. But there's this tension. It's so tension filled.
Do you think they show the wolf too much? John Landis has admitted this himself, that he loved the wolf design so much that he overshot it and showed it too many times.
I don't think so.
So you don't think it has it would be better with the Jaws effect of teasing it the whole movie and then only showing it at the end?
No,
it moves funny.
It does move funny. I guess maybe if you would have kept the transformation, but to wait the transformation until the end, we don't get that type of same movie pacing. No. You know what I mean? The pacing is so different. Yeah. So yes, probably, but it would have been a different movie. Yeah,
there's a lot of jump cut scares, and it's like the wolf's face. And then it'll transition to be like a lion next time, or like when he wakes up in the zoo.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Of course, he wakes up in the wolf den at the zoo. Boomer humor.
Deep.
Yeah. Wow. I don't know. The wolf. I feel like you have to show it because it's so good. Mm-hmm. It carries the entire movie, but unlike Jaws, it doesn't have the water to kind of hide its movement. So it scurries across the floor, and it's so low to the ground.
It is really low to the ground.
It's a low profile. This dude's cruising.
That's what sucks about it, but I can't.
It doesn't take away from it.
You can't. You have to. I feel like it's just so much. It's so hard. Even the ones that they've made now that with CGI, right, that can move, they just don't even look as good as that thing. And it's just like it always just kind of proves that just props over CGI.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like even with like a technical real prop, you could probably do it so much better now. Mechanical aspect.
You could probably give it some legs.
To look like it is actually a wolf on all four legs.
You get one of those things in the videos that people be kicking over those like robot dog things.
Yeah, you get one of those. If I really want to turn on hater mode, it looks like if you had like a bearskin rug with the head at the end.
Yeah,
and like you just put some wheels on the bottom of it, and, like skirted around.
That's
the floor,
me being 2022 brained, right? Like me being
No, I mean I could suspend the disbelief, and be like, okay, whatever. This wolf looks like that, but. If I really wanted to be a hater, be like, that wolf is way too low to the ground, buddy.
You put your glasses on and be like, well, I wouldn't know how a werewolf moves anyways, right? Yeah. I've never seen one in real life.
Adjust glasses.
Well, what would you know what it looked like? But there was one of the sequences that I really liked that I wanted to bring up, and I was talking about it with you before, was the dream sequences in this movie.
Very art house.
Yeah, this is where this movie kind of takes like... I really enjoy these moments, and I think it always takes me by surprise. But one of the dreams in here where it's just like these zombies, and you said it pretty good, from like Iron Maiden come and just wreck his family. It's one of the coolest music videos or whatever that little time frame you want to call it that I've ever seen. And there's so much chaos and
those dream sequences, like that one specifically, when the Iron Maiden's Nazi zombies come to kill them. That feels like not even a B movie. That feels like a D movie. Like it would be called like Scuzz Buckets Nazis from outer space.
Yeah, that's what it looked like. It looked like Nazi zombies. And they had this crazy knife, and then just going in there, just blasting people, dude. Like turning into Warzone within seconds.
It felt like Tim Robinson comedy. Like something you would see. Like, it felt so modern. You know what I mean? Of TikTok meme culture humor of just like, wouldn't it be funny if a zombie just came from around the corner and blasted your entire family in the chest?
And just force you to watch everything, but then it also takes what I feel like it merges that reality and the absurd of dreams, right? Which all of us have those. We're like, why was I falling? But then I just kept falling, or even weirder things sometimes. And I think it really just does take more to prove to our character, like he's going through, obviously something happened with his family, right? And now he's merging it with, I don't know, these weird things that happen in a dream, and now he's like, oh damn, like I need to, because he calls, well, that's a little thing after, but I do think it's just the absurdity of dream is so well done in those segments, and then he wakes up from it and he thinks he's woken up from it, but then
he's in another dream.
Yeah, he's in another dream.
No.
Like,
Wow.
deep.
That must have been original back then.
Yeah.
Damn, why didn't I think of that?
That's a crazy jump scare, though. Maybe back then, be like, oh, man.
That sequence is probably the most, like, one of the most fun things I've ever seen. Like, the zombie Nazis.
It's just like, what is the movie, like, turning it up to 11?
Yeah, exactly. I also love the other one where he's in the hospital bed and he has, like, the Exorcist face.
Yeah, that is cool. That's a cool effect.
Those sequences all feel like 70s horror, like a carryover of like what you would see in like a 70s horror film, like Don't Look Now or Deep Red or something, of like these weird sequences and then like a crazy jump scare.
Mm-hmm. But because even how you've talked about in you like Giallo, some of its like major themes or some of its repeated tropes.
Oh, like the tropes.
Yeah.
Not the themes, but the trope of like black gloves shattering through a window and grabbing.
And
somebody.
so like, when he's in the dream and then she wakes up from it and then it's the nurse and then the thing comes at her and starts, it reminded me of that, kind of like he could have broken through the window and then gotten her and taken her. And then, and that's just exactly what you're talking about, kind of paying its homage to what this movie actually does. A lot of his past horror films that, I don't know how popular horror was at this point, or how popular it was when those first movies came out. And so I'm always very curious to see if this movie brought a renaissance of going back. And
the 70s horror is a lot more like heady, it is a lot more like the trauma.
Rosemary Baby and stuff like
Rosemary's
that.
Baby is the 60s,
yeah.
But the 70s, you have The Exorcist, you have like Don't Look Now. I mean, you get things like slasher films like Halloween and stuff like that. Like some of the movies we talked about when we did the horror movie showdown. And I feel like the 80s became a lot more commercial, or a lot more like it expanded horror to a more mainstream audience, even though it feels so B-movie still.
I guess to kind of jump or kind of look into that as an interesting little note is that there's a reason that Michael Jackson did Thriller. It's a whole horror based,
popular enough to do that.
Yeah, and then I know maybe is that he's trying to forefront there, but the fact that Michael Jackson felt that this is the era to drop this, or this is what I should be pursuing, and John Landis to be part of that too, I think kind of speaks that maybe horror was having a
very
outreach.
mainstream moment, because this is when you're gonna get Freddy Krueger. This is when you're gonna get Jason. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of answered it on our own. So I feel like the 80s is the mainstream, and then like especially with like, this is when video becomes a thing and like the home video market and all of that. So you can make way more stuff. So this is where you get all these cheap knockoffs. Like horror is a cheap genre. So back then there's probably so many fucking horror movies at the time.
Yeah.
With the mainstream and the like underground shit.
Especially now, like with no access to, we would have them anymore. They've never been uploaded to streaming sites.
The 80s was Shudder, bro.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Where it's like just boom, 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 boom. You get hit with all these crazy movies.
And I do think that's why this movie is like
it was a massive success, too.
Mm-hmm. I think people were wanting that. And this movie kind of was cool, quote unquote, pop enough, and it just came at a perfect time.
I mean, budget of $5 million and a box office of $60 million. So I can't imagine how much money it's made now in DVDs, merch, whatever. Like this is a very successful movie.
A24 turnout.
Yeah.
Type of film.
That's funny. Oh man, I have had a lot of fun the like 2 or 3 times that I've seen this. Like I do genuinely think that this is a really fun time. Like when I'm watching a movie. I love the music. We talked about it was Elmer Bernstein who had also did, or we hadn't talked about it yet. We had mentioned it before the recording, but that Elmer Bernstein does the music, and he also does the music for Airplane. And I always think it's so funny to see how, like a director has a style, like it's like, okay, John Carpenter does this, John Landis does this, but with I would say like all the behind the scenes aspects of movie making, the careers are so varied. You know what I mean? So I know Airplane and American Werewolf are both comedies, but it's so funny to see like how a cinematographer or a composer will do 2 things that are just like completely different.
Yeah.
Like it'd be like if the same guy was doing the music for Oppenheimer and Barbie. You know?
Yeah, as they joke.
Damn, the range.
And that is, I guess, why it's always most interesting to me about both of those you're talking about, cinematographer and sound, is that they could be, their careers are like some of the, what was the director we were talking about that has an interesting, 3,000 Years Along and George Miller. You know,
exactly.
Like
Mad Max.
Their careers look like his all the time.
Yeah, exactly. Everything is one for me, one for them,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do. Yeah, that is hilarious that it's like that because directors are so known for their style. You know.
Yeah.
It's like, and with the composer, it's like almost like being more of a working man. You know what I mean? Like I just go where the money is, buddy.
And it's also because there is similarities in terms of what music is used for tense scenes, what music is used for build up, what music is used for this is the good scene where everything is good. It's just happy.
I think the reason I wanted to bring that up though was because I don't like when I think of Airplane, I never think of the music. Like it would be like indistinguishable from me. You could tell me anything was the music from Airplane, but the music in the American Werewolf is so good that it feels like even if they don't have a set style, that I would believe it that Elmer Bernstein would be like one of the great horror composers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And maybe he is. I mean, I haven't looked it up or anything, but yeah, I really appreciate the music in this movie for how much it just adds to it. Like, and I do think it helps kind of weigh the argument more in the horror aspect than comedy.
Yeah, exactly. There is not very of the behind the scenes of the stuff that people were working to achieve in terms of looks or style is not very comedy oriented at all. So I just think it falls by default. I mean, and I think I brought it up because we were comparing them a little bit, like Evil Dead. And I don't even think Evil Dead was necessarily made to be out of comedy either. I think that's like something people have looked back as.
I mean, I've heard Evil Dead described as like a Looney Tunes horror movie. And that's kind of how I think of this movie as well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, another movie I wanted to bring up when you were asking about the 80s, because I know you've watched it recently, was Reanimator. Or like Christine, you know what I mean? Like it's just this certain type of horror where it's comedic, but it's not trying to be. But it's like, come on, dude. Christine is a movie about a car that will chase you and kill you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Reanimator is this like weird H.P. Lovecraft, Frankenstein, like comedy college movie.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That movie is just very wanting to go out there, you know what I mean? It just starts with the thing. This definitely happened, you know, and I'm sure it did if it started that way, you know. But that's what I mean is it's not sorry in any way that what it's getting to, but it's so a piece of its era.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I finally pulled up Elmer Bernstein's career, and he did the Magnificent Seven and the Great Escape, and he also did Ghostbusters and the Blues Brothers and the Three Amigos.
Yeah, see. 2 for them, 2 for me.
2 for them, 2 for me. And a big fat bag.
And I'm still alive.
He looks like the most 70s person I've ever seen. In his Wikipedia picture, he's wearing a burnt orange glossy blazer.
Oh my God. So he's swaggy.
Yeah, I mean, ultra drip. He looks like he'd be a member of Silk Sonic, honestly.
Respect the drip. But I think what we do have to talk about, it's pretty, I think maybe the forefront or the best moment is definitely the transformation. And I think
why don't you tell them what we learned today? Huh?
So you're doing some research about just John Landis's interviews about him talking about this. And he was saying it's basically a metaphor for, what did he say?
This is so turning into the werewolf is basically a metaphor for an erection.
Oh yeah, but also, and he had said that it was about transformation and the metaphor of like just changing, right? When your body is changing, and then that's why he said that he
boiled it down to a painful werewolf transformation is like getting a really hard boner.
Yeah, which is
it's painful. It's painful. Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. That arose other questions for me. You know, for me in terms
go
of
to the doctor.
Yeah, I don't think that's
movies.
Not normal, my guy.
Yeah.
But besides that, it's really interesting because he was just. I didn't really think of it that way because he was just kind of making it sound like it is comparing it to, you know, having like puberty and going through changes and. Like I guess it has themes of that, but I just thought it was a werewolf. Like, yeah, it looks painful, and I think that goal was achieved. Like, and I think that's why this transformation of the werewolf is one of the best transformations into a monster I think I've ever seen.
I love that it's in harsh lighting as well.
Yeah.
Like it's there. You know what I mean? Like you see the whole thing. They don't really cut away. And yeah, it does look extremely painful. When I was talking about werewolf cons earlier, like that is got to be one of the top cons, is that you have this burning fever and your body's growing and transforming and changing in this horrendous way. I mean, I think one for me that really made me cringe is when you see his like Achilles heel like extending. You know what I mean? To have like that wolf stance. Yeah, it's awful.
It always arises so many questions to me in this movie, more because it's really the horror aspect that is driven here in terms of like the bones breaking, right? It always arises questions to me like after, be like, so your bones just kind of go back to normal even though they just broke?
It's magic, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But those are the things that obviously you overlook. But it's interesting because this movie makes it such a like known for you to hear those bones crack, you know, and that's why it works.
That is one of those things as well. It's like when you watch Wolverine's claws come out and you're like, does that hurt? Because it seems like that fucking hurts.
It seemed like that'd be terrible.
No, man. I mean, as cool as it is to be a werewolf, that fucking sucks, dude. That's got to be the worst transformation. At least when you become a vampire, you like, you know, you have the painful death, and then you have like the rebirth, right, where you come back all pale with the two little needle marks on your neck. Yeah,
exactly. The colon tattoo.
That's it. You know. Okay, I gotta sleep in the day. But werewolves have so many fucking issues. Like it wouldn't be like a fair balance patch if the werewolf didn't have no cons, you know.
That reminds me of what we do in the shadows and the werewolf dudes. They're
just
all in a pack.
Dogs.
Yeah.
Like you can distract them by throwing a stick.
Yeah. It's interesting, and I do think that's why the big aspect that I take away from this too, I think, is the fact that there's no cutaways while the transformation. Because a lot of the other movies that I've seen, we see werewolves, but we just see the person, then they're a werewolf, right? Or we hear something in the room, them changing, and then they're a werewolf. But the fact that we actually see, and he made it a point for, like we talked about, harsh lighting, and seeing the extension of the arms, the claws coming out.
It's gruesome.
Yeah, and how he kind of like how he looks in all those in between phases, like he kind of looks like this weird thing with his face, and then once his face changes, he looks more like the wolf.
Yeah, like halfway through the transformation, he looks like a anthropomorphic like bear.
Yeah,
you know what I mean, where it's like a bear with like a human face.
He looks like the thing trying to mimic what like turning into his body.
Yeah,
you know, and so that's like the stuff that's just super impressive to me because it's
like an Animorph book cover.
I don't know how they pulled it off so well then. Like even
I
now,
really don't understand how they did it.
Because even now, I haven't seen it. Maybe they just don't want to put the work in, you know. But I haven't seen it well pulled off for any transformation that well. At least like now it's just CGI driven, and it's like it looks fine CGI driven, but it's not
overkill.
I feel like I don't feel it as much as I felt this one, you know.
No, and you know what? I think that the first transformation scene in the nurse's apartment is so much more effective than the one in the movie theater.
Yeah.
Like you have to do it more than once because, you know, you have to show it every time he transforms, but it's so much more effective that first time. The movie theater one feels like it would be in any horror movie. But yeah, no, that was just like a masterclass in editing, honestly.
And I think that's why he took that moment.
It was done by Malcolm Campbell. He was the editor of the film.
Yeah, the editing style here is something worth to stand out and just appreciative of. I think those dream sequences have a lot of those crazy editing as well, and I think that's kind of what drives this movie to be a little more artsy, like you said.
Yeah, like more than it has any right to be.
Yeah,
or like I wonder if it's even more artsy than like John Landis intended.
Mm-hmm. Like he just kind of like maybe in retrospect I'm seeing it that way because we don't see those type of editing or cuts done for these type of movies. Maybe it was one of those, you know, couple ones that did have editing styles that maybe aren't as popular anymore in horror films.
Yeah, definitely.
Now it's
it's
like long
so chaotic.
Shots.
It feels tense. You know what I mean? There's like a certain horror pacing that 80s movies have.
Yeah.
It'd be like when they cut back to a girl turning around and like it's like just the eyes, you know what I mean?
Yeah, and then it's fast. They're like within like 6 seconds you get like 3 scenes, you know, and it works for a lot of them. And I know one of my favorite ones is like The Exorcist 3 has one like that. So yeah, it's a style that I don't think really translated editing in terms of horror too much, but it stands out to me.
How do you feel about the werewolf attack? what initiates the plot, like the when the boys are out on the moors.
Yeah, on the
off
moors.
The beaten path.
I think it does well in terms of you don't know when it's coming. Well, actually, that's not true. I was like, he falls, right? And obviously, you're like, oh, he falls. They're probably going to get caught by this thing.
I mean, you hear the wolf because it's loud as fuck, right?
Yeah.
The camera cuts back to the slaughtered lamb, the pub that the boys had stopped
Slaughtered
at.
Lamb.
Sick ass bar,
Yeah.
right? I like the fucking the logo.
Yeah.
Sick. I mean, you should get that as your next tattoo.
The slaughtered lamb. The slaughtered lamb. Yeah.
I think it's very effective because it's like that fear if you've ever been camping or if you've ever gone to like a top of the world spot at night and you're just like, this is the last thing you want to happen, is like you're standing up there with your friends and you just hear like,
yeah,
what
big
I mean?
Monster.
Fuck no, dude.
So, and that's where they kind of, he's like, I vote we go back to the slaughtered lamb.
Should have never left.
Yeah. I always find it funny that they just didn't want to. I guess there's no movie, but if they do that, but that the British are just like, oh well.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, exactly. If they did, well, okay. This is what I wanted to ask you. Now that you brought that up, the group of the villagers,
Mm-hmm.
right? They have a secret that they're trying to keep, so they have the choice of either keeping them here and they're gonna hear the werewolf anyways, or do we send them out on their own and maybe the werewolf doesn't attack them, but it feels like they are sending them out to be slaughtered. You know what I mean? And yeah, they do save them, and they end up killing the
original one.
Yeah,
I think so.
the patient zero.
Yeah, whatever. Yeah, exactly. Patient
they
zero.
have to kill one of their own to help these boys because movie pacing. They feel bad about it 2 seconds later.
Yeah, exactly. Oh no, maybe we shouldn't have let them go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's been 40 minutes now. It's probably a good time.
Even though he's like, yeah, you should leave. That was what that one guy said.
Awfully rude. You know what I mean? I feel like if I was a weary traveler in the night, I would just have to stick it out, and be like, okay, these people are being rude as fuck, but I'm gonna make them kick me out of here. I'm not going back out there tonight.
And then they wonder, why are we so mad with them, huh? They didn't treat my American man. And then, yeah, I did think it was funny kind of connecting it to it, the scene later when he's trying to get arrested. And he's like, the queen is like, he's like the...
Yeah, he says a bunch of homophobic, nasty things.
Yeah, exactly. He's trying to get arrested that way. But that's where I think a lot of the comedy comes in this movie is just the cultural differences.
Yeah. It is such boomer humor because like within the movie, there's so many lines that are like so obviously problematic today. Like when they're walking on a path to get to the village in the very beginning, Griffin Dunn is talking about how like the girl he likes, he's like, I have to have sex with her. Like she has no choice in the matter.
I thought
you know what I mean?
same
Like there's
thing.
so many little things throughout the movie where you're just like, bro, this literally does not fly today. And like it was cringe inducing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, ew, that is like the stuff that's like that's not funny. Okay, whatever. I'm not even gonna get into it.
But no, yeah, I did notice that specific line, and I was like, oh no.
Yeah.
Because they're gonna try to cancel John Landis again. Yeah, for another 6 months. And another thing that I really found interesting about this movie is how he bags the nurse.
Yeah.
Like, come on,
okay,
really?
That's movie.
Yeah. Be like, really? Be like the patient. Be like just because he's handsome, and like.
Because he's circumcised.
Has these. Yeah, she checked.
Yeah.
And that's when the doctor walked in.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Yeah. But I just thought it was so funny. He's like this goofy ass dude. And then he just kind of like, yeah, you can stay in my apartment too. Be like, okay. You kick it here. Like, yeah, I had
my knockoff Disney statues.
Like I had relationships like that when I was a teenager. Like, but this like really like this grown nurse. Like, yeah, well, he's kind of cute, And I always just really appreciated that aspect in here because it's just so movie
massive
logic.
dub,
Yeah,
boss man.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you quoted.
Yeah, I'd be like, dude, sick. You're like, yeah, he died, but it was worth it.
True American hero.
Yeah.
Yeah, went to London.
Caused havoc.
Baddie. Yeah, caused havoc. Disrespected the queen. Said, fuck your queen. He was smoking on the queen pack, dude.
Exactly. he bagged one of their nurses, and nothing. They didn't even have to do anything for it.
Yeah, no. You know what I wanted to bring up when we were talking about the theater was that classic werewolf trope of get away. I always loved that. Like that was a classic werewolf thing. You have to tell people to run.
Yeah,
like it's just part of the rules. And vampires, they have to be invited in. Werewolves have to give you a head start.
hey, come on, they're fast. They're just waiting, huh? They're caught up on eating somebody else at the moment, I guess. But I do like that you brought that up because that is another scene in here that is just, I don't know if it's meant to be funny. It's just so chaotic to me, and it's just so like, oh my God, like not funny, I guess, but it's like it could happen. I'm sure it's happened, but it's very unique to a horror movie, I would say. I've never really felt like that in terms of the people around this monster, whatever, are also like everybody's being affected by this one thing, There's I don't see that.
There's like innocent casualties going on.
Yeah, not even directly correlated to this wolf biting them. It's just everybody running in havoc, and I think this movie does that so well because that scene at the end where all the cars are crashing, people flying through the window.
It's like when we watched Jaws recently, and they're all trying to get out of the water. And the dude pushes the little kids. The old people are getting trampled.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's pure chaos.
Yeah,
it's like if a bull had gotten loose.
It's filmed so well, though. And I like that you brought that up because those are the only two instances where I really felt like those crowd type of settings really made it so chaotic and stress. You're like stressed for them,
Yeah.
And it's so well done. And it also just starts with the double decker, just kind of going sideways, the bus, and then. It just gets so hectic from there.
That feels current, like that you would see that.
Yeah, that's why I was like...
The humor is that it was a horrible car crash and someone got decapitated and someone fell out of a bus. Like wow. There is no joke. It's just like this, like, oh, this happened. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like so quick. And yeah.
It escalated very quickly.
I just think it's funny because at the end of the day, they just deal because my first thing was like, how long does it take them to get their guns? Is this before guns were like it was illegal to have guns? Because now they can't carry.
Policemen don't carry guns. I don't.
Yeah, be like, where did they have to go get the guns from? Right?
Yeah.
Like it took them so. So I was thinking that the whole time.
Fuzz, they had to go get out of the lockers.
Yeah.
Get the rifles, bro. Oh, it's Bloody Tuesday.
Oh man.
Do you think that the tube sequence is the best overall horror sequence? I feel like that's where I've been settling as I think of this, like as I have time here.
Or I do actually. That is the best though by far because it's like probably like at least a minute, right? Of him running through the tubes.
Minutes.
Yeah, like it reminds me of other movies that I really like, and maybe it's just like this bias towards like subway stations or whatever. It's always been creepy. Yeah, the tube. It's always been creepy, Yeah. And so it's like you never know who could be following you. But I do think it's that one. But I do like when the couple tries to go around the house through the park to scare their friends, and so it's one of their first. Yeah, and I just kind of like how you hear it goes from very calmness inside their apartment to just
some hooligans in the park.
Yeah, so it's very short though, but it's like it's not comparable to the one. So I would agree with you. I think that is just the perfect scene in this movie to kind of the best horror scene.
The subway station or the tube station.
The tube station.
They are inherently cinematic. Like if you've ever been in one. It does feel like you enter a movie world.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Or like when you're in LA and you drive through the Blade Runner tunnel.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, oh, okay, this feels like a movie.
Yeah.
Oh my God, my life is a movie.
Yeah, exactly.
I went in a tube station.
I think Trainspotting has obviously scenes in there too. It just culturally they look a little different than ours, and I think
they're more beautiful.
We're not here in LA. We don't have many of them. There is some subways, but they're not very long. So they're not tubes and tubes. That's what they call tubes. It's just they're long, I'm sure like feet or whatever you want to call them of these.
Kilometers.
Yeah. I don't know how long, but yeah, I agree with you. I think they're creepy, and I you never know what's coming out of the subway station.
I feel
right?
like it's a good exit. It could be Batman. It could be a werewolf,
Yeah.
Literally, it could be Batman.
Or it could be the copies from Us.
Oh, the tethered, right?
The tethered, yeah. See?
Escalators, dude. Scary stuff.
You don't know where
my
they
wife,
lead.
when we were watching this, she'd mentioned how the man just like falls over on the escalator and it kind of feels like he gives up.
Yeah.
Right. But she was like, that's got to be one of the worst places in all of horror movies to just give up, because the monster is going to crawl up and you're just going to like ride the escalator and not run up the stairs. You know what I mean? Nah, I mean, guy just kind of gave up on his life. It reminded me of Austin Powers when the guy's going to get crushed by the roller.
It just
and
stays
he's
there.
like 100 feet away from it and he's just screaming.
Just move.
Yeah, just like Pearl. Just leave. Just
Yeah.
run away.
Yeah, that's just movie tropes, right? You just gave up at the perfect moment.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too much more to say about this movie. It's a really fun time. I don't feel like it needs to be too deeply dissected. I don't feel like John Landis's films really call for that.
Yeah, this movie also isn't very long.
No, it's like an hour 30.
It knows its runtime. It's a quick story. It is tragic, I guess. I could consider it tragic, but yeah, I think this movie is deep, even deeper than it wanted to be in some terms.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, it doesn't. I don't know if it feels intended though.
Yeah, like I don't. Maybe the whole erection thing. I guess Like, is that did you think about that after?
Is that a bit?
Or
Or
that's
just a bit for the interview. Like, oh yeah, this movie's about hard dicks.
yeah. He's just over here, just clowning on them, right? Just making stuff up.
But yeah, I do
Trolling.
get you, like the transformation into the beast, the man. Am I man or beast?
Yeah, like because he did compare it to in terms of the themes of the original one, but yeah, I do believe the original one is meant to be deeper though. But this one does not lead me to believe that anything is. I'm sure that the original story of the werewolf has all of those connections to those kind of themes and all of this connection to transformation in terms of emotional. I think he was talking about that. It has cancer in the first one, so it's that like accepting your fate, But this movie isn't about that.
No.
This movie is just cool.
It's a hell of a fun time.
Yeah, and I think it's gonna. This is one of those movies that I think my whole life around spooky season will be thrown on.
Spooky season, dude. This was a fun beginning to the Halloween time of the year. I know that we're both going to try to do the 31 days of horror, 31 nights of horror. Do you know what you're starting with?
I think I might go Texas Chainsaw. I've been waiting.
Yeah.
I've been waiting a while to watch this movie. I do have my list on Letterboxd. I have a couple lined up, but I'm feeling that right now.
I think the new Hellraiser's out. Is
it really?
I think so. I think
I saw reviews for
Hellraiser, like the Pinhead character, a woman?
I believe so. Well,
okay, because I seen it on Hulu, like the poster for like Huluween,
I heard it's pretty good.
If that is out today, I'm probably gonna watch that first. But I do have, I recently got a steelbook of Texas Chainsaw on like last week or something like that, and American Werewolf and Texas Chainsaw were both. Texas Chainsaw wasn't even on the horror movie bracket because I just forgot, honestly. And American Werewolf didn't make it past like the second round, I don't think. But yeah, I mean, this is that time of year now to actually do horror movies. So
right.
It's gonna be fun to do two classics like that because they're so different.
Yeah, the classics. Well, what year is Texas Chainsaw Massacre?
Mid-70s.
Yeah, I think.
Before.
Actually, a lot of people that I've talked to didn't really know about it until this new one was made. Like, they don't know it's a remake. And I was under the impression that this movie was pretty popular. Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Watches Maleficent. There's a movie called Cinderella.
Yeah. So because I was surprised. I've asked a couple of people about it because I was like, I watched that like around high school, and it was like I think it was like on Spike too.
What, Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the original one? Let's save that for the Texas Chainsaw Pod.
But yeah.
But yeah, man. I mean, I hope our listeners out there are excited for the Halloween season, and I hope you guys watch as many horror movies as possible. I'm going to plug the Horror Movie Showdown. Now would be a good time to go back and listen. We covered some really good films. They were so good that we didn't have time to do American Werewolf.
Yeah.
So definitely check those out. Definitely let us know what you're watching. I would love to see what horror movies get you guys going. And yeah, man, one whole year of the Grand Cinema Hotel.
That's also another aspect worth bringing up. Yeah, it flew. That's for sure.
Yep.
It didn't feel
we
like
laid
it.
down the first brick. So our spiritual, metaphorical hotel can become a real one day in an undisclosed mountain location.
Yeah, in 2060 something. Yeah, but a year, man. It's been really fun. We've had a lot of interesting movies to talk about. We've had a lot of interesting feedback from some of you guys, and that's been really fun to just have like that relationship with a lot of people that we've never actually met in person.
Yeah, definitely. I can't wait to keep doing it. I mean, I never want to stop doing the podcast. It's so much fun. I love just talking about movies like this and just really having just a good time. You know what I mean? And I hope we do you guys feel the same way when you listen to the episodes, that you're just, hanging out with your fake internet friends, having fun.
That's how we appreciate it. and we have these conversations here, but it's not on an everyday basis. So it is interesting whenever somebody does have that connection to us. So thank you guys.
Yeah, and I know Nate would say the same. He would say how much he loves all of you and how much he appreciates all of you. And yeah, man, happy Halloween. It's Halloween is a whole month. It's not just a day. So Thanks for checking back in, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
See ya.